What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 176 of Nintendo Noise, Slipscreen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friends and co-host, Mr. Ken Hicks.
What it do?
And Mr. Jack Ryan.
Oh, I'm Pete and Bessie. Don't touch my amiibos.
Yeah, don't touch my amiibos. You kidding me? What are your grubby little fingerprints on it? That's why I got them in a case.
How you doing, Pete?
No, Jack, I'm doing okay. It was a lot better before you brought up my amiibos like that.
I mean, that's why I blurred my background, because most of my
it's just
nothing but amiibos.
Amiibos with
just like a mountain of opened
suspicious
amiibo
bite
packs.
marks in them. Yep. There's two links.
I'm telling you, babe, this is our retirement fund. Trust me on this one. Trust me.
Jack gave me his original Villager. So that was already the most valuable one in his collection. So I'm worried about
Worst
that retirement
financial
fund.
decision of my life, by the way.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. I don't know if you've looked into the street value of a Villager amiibo recently, but
It's pretty good.
I'm
So
actually curious.
While you look that up, I want to introduce our topic here today because we are going to be doing a little retrospective on the Nintendo Switch catalog. And using that as kind of a jumping off point to talk about the future of the Nintendo Switch 2's catalog and how some of the franchises that either, dominated the Nintendo Switch, that maybe made a comeback on Nintendo Switch, what the future will look like for them. Because I think this console generation was very much defined by record-setting releases, right? And most of the big Nintendo franchises had their best-selling game yet come out on Switch. So I think there's a lot of, pressure is maybe the wrong word, but I think there's a lot of expectation built up around some of these franchises now, and they're going to have more eyes and ears on them than they ever have. And if they can stick the landing, obviously that's, really huge for Nintendo. So I think now, only 2 weeks out from the full Nintendo Switch 2 reveal is a great time to do this little retrospective and to take a walk down memory lane through, the whole run of first-party software.
Yeah, I love it. So I feel like with some of these things, it's not a matter of if they'll get a new game on the Switch 2. It's a matter of when. Right.
I think that's probably true for most of the big franchises.
For most of them, I'm just going to kind of start off here. I do not think we're going to get a Pikmin 5 anytime soon.
Wrong.
We're not getting Pikmin 5
I'm so ready to argue
soon.
with you. We're getting a Pikmin 5.
I can pull up and listen, how many years of a gap between 3 and 4? 10 years?
Okay, wait.
No.
Okay, I'm going to backpedal. You did say soon, and that you're probably right about. It's probably very, very far away.
Yeah, not in the Switch 2 lifespan. I don't think so.
Oh,
I think if you look at the
we'll
Switch
get it.
3.
We'll get one on
by the time
Switch.
we get a Pikmin
We'll get one on
5.
Switch. Don't you start killing my hopes already.
There was a 9-year gap between Pikmin 2 and 3, and a 10-year gap between 3 and 4.
That's Miyamoto's fault. Now that he's not working on it, we could get one of these done in 5 years.
The only way we don't get Pikmin 5 is if they go straight to 6 like sickos. It's the only exception.
What was it in America? They went straight from Final Fantasy 3 to 7 because they skipped a bunch of games from Japan or something like that.
Yeah, it's it's one of the most confusing naming convention things ever. It's the games that we call 2 and 3 are actually 5 and 6. It's very, very weird and complicated if you go back and look at it now, especially because now we have all of them. So it's I don't even remember which is which, but anyway. We're not here to talk about the history of Final Fantasy. We're here to talk about the history of the Nintendo Switch. And I think the way I envision this is we'll start chronologically and then we can jump around as needed, for the franchise that we're on, right? If there's a franchise that had multiple entries. The first one that we're going to talk about, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Heard of it.
I think
I heard that's a video game, right?
That is a video game. Yeah. Pretty big one, I think it's pretty inarguable in my mind that the Nintendo Switch generation was most significant for Zelda, considering like what a massive success Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom both were, and like how they are some of the best, reviewed in the series, right? Like, but also like eclipse the sales of almost every other game in the franchise. It's like what an absolute slam dunk it's been for this, this console generation.
Yeah. I think Animal Crossing you got to throw in the ring just out of like sheer volume and
Yeah, that's true.
global reach, but in terms of like evolution of the formula for Zelda, yeah, I don't think anything has transformed the way it has for the better.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And,
Like,
and that's on a system with a lot of bangers that we'll proceed to touch on. But yeah, just an absolute
Like if you
beautiful time
think
to be a
about
Zelda fan.
if you think about the games that defined the Nintendo Switch, like Breath of the Wild is top 3, if not the number 1 game to define the Switch generation.
I think it
as a
kind of
whole.
is
I
the
think so, yeah.
number one, because it's like when you think of it, like it was the launch title, right? That like it had an insane attachment rate. Everyone was playing it. It was the first time in like how long that Nintendo had a game that was a Game of the Year contender, that was a game that everyone was playing, everyone was talking about, not good for a Nintendo game, just a great like slam dunk game. I think it's tough to beat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, the question is, do you think that the next Zelda game that we get, because we did just get Echoes of Wisdom last year, right? That
Right.
Zelda
and,
spinoff.
Yeah, I guess to touch on the other ones that came out, right? We obviously had Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that were like the, standard like
The
AAA.
flagships, yeah.
Yeah, right, the flagship stuff. And then we had Link's Awakening and then Echoes of Justice. Or wait, what was Echoes of Wisdom?
Echoes of Wisdom, yeah.
That are both the like, top down, like classic style, right? And all of which sold really well. I mean, obviously, Breath of the Wild's like 32.6 million. It's like, I think it's the second or third best selling on the console. Tears of the Kingdom like is in like somewhere in the 20s. Both of the like top down ones did between like 4 and 6 million each. So like they both did really well for, the budget and everything that like the metrics of success for those. So yeah, I mean, I gotta imagine that the next Zelda is gonna be another game in the style of Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. That is like the big open world deal, but like just not set in the same timeline
World.
Yeah.
Or timeline, yeah. Also, like, since we're talking about these Zelda games, I completely forgot. We also got like Hyrule Warriors, like that Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, we got a bunch of
well.
Warriors
Spin-offs
games
in there.
Yeah, so like, I guess, what do you think the next Zelda game is going to be? Do you think it's going to be like the more traditional top-down? Do you think we're going to get another like Hyrule Warriors spinoff, or do you think they're just going to like throw us a curveball and give us something completely out of left field?
I think we'll probably get one, what we'll call a spin-off of some sort. I don't think it'll be a proper like 2D Zelda, a new entry, maybe a remake of like a 2D game. I think we'll see another Zelda title before we see the next flagship 3D Zelda game.
Yeah.
I do think that is probably the next big like major project for the IP. In terms of what it's going to be, I have no idea. Each 3D Zelda, like conceptually by design, is kind of radically different.
right.
I do think Breath of the Wild has brought the series to a place that it cannot like abandon. It's like it achieved too much. It's established too much to fully remove itself from that. So I think there's going to be lessons learned and a lot of like conceptually shared systems with Breath of the Wild in terms of the way that they approach exploration and like player freedom, that sort of stuff. But the form that takes, I have no idea. I'm stoked to find out because they always surprise us. But yeah, that's kind of I'm agnostic toward what the next Zelda is going to be, but I'm freaking stoked for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're pretty spot on. Like, I think the next Zelda is definitely going to be a re-release. Just because, like, I think they're going to want to have a new Zelda game at, new, quote unquote. They're going to want to have a Zelda game to sell us on Nintendo Switch 2. at some point in the first couple of years of the life cycle, and
Yeah.
we're
And Tears of
nowhere.
the Kingdom came out when?
Tears of the
Just
Kingdom was now
2023, I think.
yeah, so it'll be 2 years ago.
Yeah, so I mean, we're
2 months.
a couple of years
no, a
removed
few days.
from a sequel that was not like shy of ambition. That game was
No.
freaking huge and absolute
Meaty.
juggernaut to deliver.
And
So-
you know, you think about that, like it that was in development for like basically the entire console's life cycle. And it had the benefit of using the same map. So I would say that, you know, I would imagine that pre-production on what the next Zelda is had begun during the Tears of the Kingdom cycle. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you that I think that Inuma said as much, right? That like the Breath of the Wild formula is like a new style of Zelda game, and that like that is I think at least for the foreseeable future going to be the style, in the same way that after Ocarina of Time came out and was the best-selling, best game of all time of its age, every Zelda game aped that for years until Breath of the Wild. So yeah, I'm with you. I think when we get the next Zelda, like the next proper Zelda, it's gonna be a game that is in that same kind of like go anywhere, do anything, you know, experiential, open world experience. But yeah, with all the, you know, with all of the learnings from both of those games, and then probably a new gimmick, right? Like rather than having the like small set of items and the like hundreds of puzzles, right, in the first game, or the building mechanics of the second, we'll have some other conceit or some other gimmick that, you know, or I guess there's also the like 3 levels of the second game as well, right? That like, you know, I think you'll maybe even use some of those same systems, but just put them in the context of like a very different Hyrule.
Yeah.
All right. So hear me out. Hear me out. Let me cook. Zelda Retro Studios. Please
Elaborate.
Not gonna happen.
Yo, listen.
Not going to
we need
happen, but also elaborate.
we need to get them. Well, nobody thought Metroid would work as a first-person game when Prime got first announced. It's like, oh, this is so weird. It's like kind of far-fetched. But I feel like Retro, if anyone can do it, it's Retro Games. And if they want to do something different, something unique, something that's not either Metroid Prime or Donkey Kong Country, which is basically what they've been doing the last like decade. I just want them to cook.
We got
they
way too
have-
many games on this list for you to be pitching me Retro Studios making a Zelda game. We are moving on, Ken. Are you kidding me?
Pete, queue up the next one, but I want to respond to it. If they have like a really inspired concept for a Zelda game, sure. I don't see a reason to do it like for the sake of it. I don't think they are inherently set up for success to handle that franchise. But who
All
knows?
right. I just want them to
Sometimes
cook
people
something.
have an idea and all they need is a chance to prove it.
We'll see if they ever get to make
It's
the
never
Star
gonna
Fox
happen.
game.
Great suggestion.
Next up, we got 1-2 Switch and its sequel that nobody knows exists, which is everybody's 1-2 Switch. You know, not particularly well-received games. Not games that's, you know, I mean, the first one sold fine. The second one did not. I think, obviously, we're not getting another 1-2 Switch. But do you think we're going to see a, like, pack-in gimmick game a la 1-2 Switch, a la Wii Sports? Or is the fact that it's a Nintendo Switch too, it's like, what is the... There's not a, like, unique thing to show off and teach you about, right?
It'll be interesting. 1-2 Switch, for like as shallow and just forgettable as it was, I do think like culturally it's kind of important because it's the game that represents like Nintendo's reluctance to let go of past lightning in a bottle. And it was really trying to like, even though we have this radically different system with this really like technologically innovative form factor, and that was more than enough of a selling point, they still just like at the end of the day could not let go of let's also try to convince people this is still the Switch. So
Still the Wii.
From that point, the Wii. From that point of view, I think it'll be interesting to see if they still are trying to drag out that point, or if they've come to accept like it's behind us. We're doing something a bit more forward looking now and not trying to appeal to what we used to
Yeah,
appeal to.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like part of me thinks like that they might be like, well, you know, we sold 4 million copies of that game, so like why not? But like I kind of am with you where it's like it made sense at the start of the Switch generation. It feels like it makes a lot less sense at the start of the Switch 2 generation.
I feel like, granted, they haven't fully shown off the Switch 2, but, you know, based off leaks and that teaser trailer, we can infer a couple little things. But I feel like there's not enough new stuff to warrant, like, hey, this is the new game show, everything new that our console can do.
Yeah.
If anything, they'll just put it in the next either WarioWare game or Mario Party, most likely. Like, you know, if there's some type of new killer feature, they're going to try to bundle it into one of those games. They're proven to be successful. I'd be willing to bet money we're going to get a new one of both. And that just makes more sense. Because, like you said, the second 1-2 Switch did not sell well.
No.
And the only reason the first one sold well is because it was a launch title.
Right.
And
yeah, it was one of the 2 games available, and it still didn't sell that well, you know?
Yeah, so...
yeah, so...
like,
yeah,
I just doubt it.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
It'll be interesting to see. That's about all I have to say about it. Like, Nintendo as a company, it's interesting to see where their mind is at.
Yeah.
If they still feel there's like any value in that, or if they're finally ready to let it go and realize there's nothing really to gain from jamming that into the launch of the console.
Yeah, or do they maybe see value in like trying a different like approach to that style of game? Like if they want to make something that is like a casual like party game that you can play with like everybody in the family, like, you know, maybe we see them do something like more akin to, you know, like the Jackbox games and stuff like that, right? Where it is like less of a pack-in title that's about like doing goofy like motion control stuff, and it is more like how do you Nintendo-fy the like party social game, you know, experience.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Next up, we got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Of course, the best-selling game on the console, insanely. A game that's just sold, continued to sell, even though it's like older than some children that own Nintendo Switches. It's bizarre.
So I
funny.
didn't look through the full sales list that you put together, Pete. Is it the number 1 selling Switch game?
It is 67.35 million sold.
That's
by
crazy.
a lot, right?
Yeah, by a pretty good margin. Because like I said, Breath of the Wild is like in the top 3, and that's got 32. So yeah,
insane because it like as far as I know, minus maybe like an occasional $15 off Black Friday sale, never went on sale to this day. Is $60.
Well, and it's like it was always like the pack-in on like Black Friday, so it's like you'd get like that's where you'd get it would be like, oh, I'm getting a new Switch Black Friday bundle. I own Mario Kart, and it's like, yep, and there you go.
Yeah, so as someone who owned it on Wii U, and just like out of principle, I couldn't pay $60 again for the same game that is not any better than it was on the Wii U. Like, if at any point,
it's better.
It's better now.
6 years. It is. Yeah, it's been expanded over time. But if at any point it was available for $30, if there was even like a 5-minute window, I would own that game. But they just refused to do it. And I understand why, because they sold 65 million copies.
It's really insane. It's like one of the most profitable video games of all time.
I'm so ready for Mario Kart 9.
So I obviously, I'm sure people are screaming through the screen when I said like, oh yeah, I think Zelda's 2 or 3. Obviously it's 3. Animal Crossing is 2 because that sold 44 or 47 million. So yeah, it sold 20 million more copies than the next best-selling game on the console.
That's wild.
Which is so crazy because it was already like 6 years old when it came out. It's nuts. It's like, yeah, that's just, I mean, it speaks to how good that game is, but like I think also just like the ubiquity of Mario Kart and like how much people like to play Mario Kart.
Yeah, so my personal Wii U spite aside, absolute banger of a game. Like,
yeah.
Never bought it?
Yeah, it's going to be tough shoes to fill.
You've never bought it? That's insane.
Such a complete, mind-blowing Mario Kart game.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about it is, like, obviously we know Mario Kart 9 is coming. Like, we saw a little tease of it. I'm sure we'll get a full reveal at the Switch event in 2 weeks. But it is, like, an interesting question of, I think it's the same question we've had with like Smash that we'll talk about in a minute, right? Where it's like, where do you go from the best one ever, right? That, like, checks 100% of the boxes and sold for 10 years, and they did a whole wave of DLC. It's like every track ever is in it. It's like, how do you make a bigger, better Mario Kart when you already made Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
You can't go bigger. You got to go sideways. You have to do something different.
Yeah, but I think Mario Kart and Smash Bros. Share the same problem of more is more. And they've already given us, like, the most you can fit in a game reasonably that you're still going to make your money back on.
Yeah, and I get
Smash Bros. Especially, but tracks, to your point, Pete, like, how many tracks are in Mario Kart 8? You're not going to exceed
with
that
the DLC.
Yeah,
that they did
right.
a couple years ago.
Like, I think it's like, it's almost inherently going to feel smaller at launch, right? And, like, maybe they have a DLC plan like they did for the first game, and we see it, you know. Not that I have doubt that they can make a Mario Kart game that is exciting and worth playing, but I do worry that maybe, like, this one might have a bit of a, like, sophomore slump problem of, like, yeah, it's good, but it's more Mario Kart. And it's like, okay, well, you know, we waited 10 years, so I hope they have something more than there are more racers, right? That's what we know so far. It's like, okay, there's more. I think you can have, like, 24 racers or something like that. That's cool, but is that all we got? Probably not, but
Return to Double Dash would be cool.
I would love that.
Really think that that's something that they should consider. I really thought that would have been an interesting way to go after 8 to try and, like, hey, like, we have to pivot, right? Like, I think you're right, Ken. Like, we can't go bigger. We need to go sideways, right? Like, forward is, you know, what is that? Just 30 more tracks, more characters, like, you know, and maybe so. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's good enough.
That's what we need.
They had 10 years to do it. So the idea that they made a, you know, it's like, okay, we remastered everything from the last one and we added 25 more, you know, % more or whatever. Okay.
I'm also just going to, you know, place my bets that Mario Kart 9 is going to be a launch title. Just my gut feeling, going to call it that. But
I think that makes sense. I think it's first year for sure.
First year, absolutely. They wouldn't have shown it if it wasn't.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, we have ARMS, which is a game that I really, really enjoyed at launch. And
ARMS was a heater, man.
It was. You're the only person I've ever brought it up to on this show.
On this hill.
Yes. This is why we're bros, Jack.
We're good friends in real life for everyone listening, by the way. So, like, we could have easily played together. We shouldn't just now be discovering that we are the two people on Earth who loved ARMS.
I know.
But better late than never, I suppose.
There's a non-zero chance we did play together and we just don't remember because it was like 8 years ago. But
no, I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, ARMS was incredible.
Honestly, Jack, do you want to come over and play ARMS? Do you want to come over and play ARMS?
Yeah, I'm on my way.
Sweet, let's do it. Let's play ARMS.
Cancel the show.
I love that game. And obviously, like,
I don't know if the servers are still online, but
no, we'll have to do local. I mean, I think there's, like, obvious things that game, like, that it would have benefited from a sequel, right? Where, like, it could have used a more robust single player mode. It was, like, very reliant on, like, you getting online and playing online, like, once you had unlocked everything and all, you know. So it's like, I think a more robust ARMS 2 is something I would really, really be interested in, and that I sincerely doubt will ever happen.
So you're saying that ARMS didn't have legs to it in terms of content?
No, we're disagreeing with that. It's a good pun, but I will not. I don't want to slander ARMS. ARMS was good. More people should have played ARMS.
Listen, I'm going to give you a little bit of copium, a little bit of hope. All right. So the reason we might get an ARMS sequel is because Sakurai said when he was making the Smash Ultimates DLC, said that Nintendo sent him the characters and he just let them know whether or not they'd be good fighters. He didn't pick the DLC characters. Nintendo did.
Oh, right.
And Nintendo selected
Min Min.
or just said include an ARMS character, I think he specifically picked Min Min. Why would Nintendo say, "Hey, put an ARMS character in here"? If they didn't have any intention of doing anything else
You
for
know
the
what?
franchise.
You might
So
be
like,
right.
and that ultimately came out a few years after ARMS. So
That would be so sick.
like, that's my only thing of hope because
Here's
it's
my
sold
thing.
okay.
Don't make it a launch like window game, right? Like, let's wait until there's like a decent install base. Give me a nice beefy ARMS 2, a little more story mode kind of stuff, so for the casual audience. It's a great game.
Let them cook.
I looked at the notes and I saw that ARMS sold 1 million copies less than 1-2 Switch.
Yeah,
And I don't want to do the rest of the show no more.
I'm broken.
It's so sad.
Yeah, that broke me.
ARMS is so good.
I know, and it's I don't know. I really would love for it to get another shot. It was, and like we don't get new IP from Nintendo ever, which is so annoying. And like, I just take another shot at it.
Yeah, I think it does kind of tie back to was part of the problem of ARMS that it like was clutching on to we can market this as like a motion control game and try to recapture the Switch. Because I mean, I don't know about you, I played with those motion controls for maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah,
And then
it's like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, I realized for once they actually added like proper controller support, and that was the end of that. But I feel like so many people were turned off because they probably assumed it was just the motion controls, which just inherently screens party game.
Yeah. And I mean, it
And
was
not
a great
in a
party
good way.
game. Unfortunately, I wish more people had bought it and played it that way. Because when I had it, like it was still in that, the Switch was like relatively new, right? It was only June, and like I remember I had a bunch of friends that had like come home, like we were all back in the town we grew up in from college, right? So it was like everybody was like excited to check out the Switch or whatever. And like I had like a weekend where like me and like 5 or 6 of my friends played ARMS for like 4 hours, 2 days in a row, just passing it and going round for round. And it's like it was a blast. Like it's a really good time. I
had like I had like maybe 2 friends that I played online with. And yeah, I don't know how long it lasted, a couple weeks probably, but incredible times.
I played it online until
like truly one of the most captivating fighters I've ever played in my
I really
life.
loved it. I was like so into it. And like I literally played it online until the like number of players dwindled till only the really sweaty people were left, and I was like, I'm just not good enough. I'm not good enough to play anymore.
It was you and me playing each other, the last 2 players
We just
online,
didn't know.
just totally not knowing.
All right, so let's get into the other most recent Nintendo IP at the table, which is Splatoon. Of course, we had Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3. Splatoon 2 of the two performed a bit better. It had 13.60 million sales, Metacritic of 83, right? And then 3 came out and was like very much. I felt like more of the same. It really didn't feel like a proper sequel as much as another season of Splatoon 2. And I think that that's pretty reflected in how it was received. It had a slightly lower Metacritic score, I believe, like 1 point maybe, and sold about 2 million copies less. I think still a solid performance, but yeah, I feel like what I want to see most from a Splatoon 4 is just like a bit of modernization. Like I think it could really benefit from some of the like lessons that other, like always online multiplayer games as service style games have benefited from. I never felt like there was enough like keeping me on the hook with Splatoon, aside from the gameplay being very fun. But like if you don't have a squad of people to play with, if like, I feel like you need the like, something like a season pass, right? Like something that's going to like encourage you to keep playing and hone your skills and get better, and not just feel like every day I'm getting on and playing ranked and trying to rank up, right? Because if you're not that competitive, like it's very easy to just fall off and be like, okay, like it fell out of rotation for me. You know?
So
Yeah,
would you?
there's a few like other things along that line that I'd mention. I feel like for a lot of players, again, if you're not a ranked player, I feel like you kind of find your setup, and then leveling up like largely loses its incentive at a point. You're not really gaining anything. So yeah, anything they can do to just incentivize more frequent like check-ins, just like the Splatfests were awesome.
Yeah.
Like just so fun to like decorate the hub world, and it was like a midnight rave. Like it was a blast. And I don't think you need to do like more of that, but even just little like mini mission stuff. You know, this week if you do these 3 things, you get this T-shirt.
Exactly. And
Just like little simple opportunities.
So how would you guys feel if like Splatoon 4 came out and it was like a free-to-play game with a battle pass?
I kind of think that's the right move. And like, I don't necessarily think that Nintendo will do that. And I also don't know that they're necessarily equipped to run a game like that properly without hiring some outside talent. That said, I think that would be the way to go, right? Would be to make, or if it's not a free-to-play game, make it be like a platform thing where it's like, this is the Splatoon you're going to get on Switch 2, and we're going to support it for the entire life cycle of the console, and we have a multiple season plan, and rather than doing what they did this time around, which is like, you know, making a sequel that reuses a lot of the same content and just adds a second map, and it really feels like a season of Splatoon rather than like enough to justify a boxed numbered sequel that split the audience too. You know,
they proved with Flying Colors it's a once per hardware cycle or per hardware generation franchise. I think we learned there's nothing to be gained by trying to pump out sequels.
No, and I think there's a lot more money to be made by just doing the games as a service thing, because it's like I think that's what multiplayer games are supposed to be at this point.
Like,
you know?
3 seasons worth of unlockable cosmetics would have made the same amount of money as Splatoon 3, and it would have been a lot more fun for players.
Yeah, you could have literally had 3 $20 season passes, right? And it's like, you know, I think that's a much more like that's a modern model. That's how you do that in this day and age. Next up, we got Pokken Tournament DX.
My sweet baby girl, please.
We talked about this
Pokken.
on a reason. I think this is a game that's like very ripe for a sequel. I think it came out too early. You know, it was in the first year. Like the attachment rate was not there. I think if it comes out, you know, with a slightly more polished sequel, I could see that having a lot of potential.
Yes. Listen, Nintendo, don't give up on Pokken. And that's, I feel like I talked about this a lot like a week or two ago, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but
yeah,
please. Is it likely? I'd say it's like 30-70 that it's going to happen. Like
yeah, I don't think it's
not,
likely, but I don't think it's crazy either.
Yeah, it's possible. It's just, you know,
it's more likely than ARMS. So
that's true. It is more likely
take
than
that
ARMS.
to the bank.
I would actually argue that ARMS is more likely.
You know, it did sell less.
That's
than
my
ARMS.
2 cents.
It did sell less. It's the Pokemon thing, though. It's like I think it's crazy that game didn't sell more, and I think that's a marketing problem more than anything.
I think so, because it was fun. Like I played
It's
it.
a great game.
It's a legitimately good fighting game. Also, fighting games are more popular now than they were in 2017. Is the other thing. There's a way more activated audience in 2025. There's like 5 major fighters out right now, and they all sold really well and like seem to have a pretty healthy online scene. Next up, Super Mario Odyssey. This is another one that's like, obviously we're getting another 3D Mario. We talked about this on the same episode where we talked about Pokken Tournament of like, my theory is the next one is going to be a Bowser's Fury style, like open world. That'll be the next 3D Mario
evolution.
If I had to guess, you know, based on what we know.
Yeah, like
Mario
I
don't have much to add to that.
Yeah, Mario's inevitable. It's just a matter of when, like 2026, maybe. I would guess, but that's just like me taking a shot in the dark.
I think
it could be a launch year game. I think.
Yeah, I think it could be for sure. And I also kind of think the more interesting Mario question this generation is this the generation we're gonna see 3D Mario remakes for the first time?
I was thinking about that because Super Mario 3D All Stars was one of the games that came up on my list, and I was like, yeah, like what the hell's up
It's
with
a
that?
port collection.
Yeah, and like why is that not more of a thing? Like why do we not, what like it feels bizarre to me that they have not bothered to remake games like 64 or Sunshine or Galaxy or even with like Zelda, right? Like it's like, why have we not gotten Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time off the 3DS on a, Switch? Like I think we probably will get some of those games brought to the new hardware in some shape or form, whether it's a port or a remake.
I think last generation, we had the Wii U, which nobody bought, and it was just too easy of an opportunity to bring that stuff over with minimal work and sell it at full price.
True.
And they absolutely should have done that. Like they'd have been idiots not to do that. But now that they don't have that backlog of like minimal lift stuff to pad out the Switch 2 catalog, I think we might be approaching the point where proper Nintendo remakes are actually like feasible and something we might see.
All right, so real quick, because I know we have a big list to go through here. Which Mario game would you like to see remade if you had to pick one?
I think you start with 64.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's where you start because I think that game holds up incredibly well. I think the only thing that doesn't hold up well is the N64's janky ass camera. I think if you remake that game in like the Odyssey engine, yeah, absolutely.
Yep, I gave the answer in my heart. Pete gave the correct answer. It's Super Mario 64.
Well, and then it's like you run it back and do Sunshine after that, right? It's like, yeah, I'm right there with you.
I would love to see it.
So then we also obviously want to touch on 2D Mario. Up until Wonder last year, it was, 2 years ago now, Jesus.
Wow.
It was pretty much exclusively ports, right? Like it's like we had 3D Land, right? Or no, that's the DS one. 3D World and Bowser's Fury. We had the Wii U, New Super Mario Bros. Those all sold well. It's like obviously they're 2D Mario games. Wonder's the one to look at, right? Like Wonder came out in October of 2023, so it's been out for a year and a quarter, and it sold 15.51 million already. It's incredibly successful. You got to imagine that a Super Mario Brothers Wonder 2 is imminent.
I wouldn't say imminent. I think that Nintendo's going to take their time with the next 3D Mario game. Since the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, they already have like a huge backlog of Mario games that you can play on it. I would say we'd get the 3D one before another 2D one.
Oh, I think that's true, and I also think it's not that far away. Because I don't think it takes as long.
Nintendo takes their time with these games. Like, when was the last new 2D Mario game?
It was the
Wonder?
Wii U one, right? But that was the end of the new Super Mario Bros. Cycle, right? It's like I think like if you're looking at, I'm trying to find the rate of release for.
I would argue that before Wonder, the first new 2D Mario Bros. Game was New Super Mario Bros. DS, and then we kind of just got 6 little polished up versions of that with a couple new tricks up its sleeve.
I think that's what we're gonna do with Wonder, though. No, that's what I think's happening. I think
Wonder's so weird though because it's just like such a celebration of every idea in the can and then some.
So
like
just to give a frame of reference.
I don't know how you replicate it because
that's true.
Like by design, it is a bunch of like it's 10 million micro ideas that are here and gone in 5 seconds. And so I don't know how that translates into like it'll be so easy to make a sequel because they just poured so many ideas into that game. I think it'd be disappointing to reuse like the gags and.
But how many ideas do you think that they got started that didn't make it to the floor? That like, you know what I mean? That ended up on the cutting room floor. Like I don't know. I don't think it's
that's our sequel.
I don't think
with the rejects.
No, I think it's like a jumping off point, right? Like I don't know. I'm just looking at. We had New Super Mario Bros., right? The one you just mentioned on DS in 2006. Then Galaxy came out the next year. Then in 2009, we got New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Galaxy 2 was out in 2010. Super Mario 3D Land came out in 2011. Then we had New Super Mario Bros. 2 and New Super Mario Bros. U both come out in 2012. And then Super Mario 3D World came out the year after that in 2013.
Yeah, but if you think about 3D World as like a 3D Mario game, and you think about the last
personally.
like 2D Mario game, it was
I mean,
like
even still though, it's you have New Super
Mario
Mario
Bros.
Bros. Then
U.
2009, so that's 3 years later, and then the next set of sequels was in 12, which is 3 years later. So that's
and then
what,
the
that's
next
what I'm
sequel
saying.
took 11 years to come out, 2023, since we had a 2D Mario game that was brand new from the ground up.
Yeah, but that's because it was brand new from the ground up, and I don't think the next game is going to be brand new from the ground up. I think it's going to be Super Mario Brothers Wonder 2.
Fair enough.
That's my.
I kind of fall right in the middle of this. I agree. It's going to be easier to deliver Wonder 2 than Wonder 1 was, obviously.
Yeah.
Like the framework's built, but to what I said earlier, I just don't know how easy it is to replicate a game that's built on like, let's cram as many original ideas as possible.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
I think
it's
that's a
very
decent
unique
point.
in that sense, so it's hard to put a time frame on it, even as like, a guesstimate. I just don't know.
I will say though, if we did go from that game's done, right, to developing a sequel, like we went right into that, and that's what the team's working on. If it's a similar trajectory, the idea that it would be out in 3 years, right, would be 2026.
Sure. Yeah. My
enough.
stance is it could go either way. I don't know. Whenever it is, I won't be surprised that it either took too long or got here faster than I thought it would.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So then we got Snipper Clips. I kind of am surprised we never got a Snipper Clips too.
I was just talking about Snipper Clips today.
It's a good game.
I was mentioning what we were doing on the podcast today, and Snipper Clips came up, and I was like, oh yeah,
It's a good game. It was a cute
it's a
little
little
game.
game, yeah.
You know?
A game
Underrated gem.
No, yeah, I'm not sure I ever would have touched it if it wasn't one of like 3 worthwhile games.
Yeah.
Available at launch for the Switch, but in terms of like launch shovelware goes,
It was in
that's hard to call
Smash. You know,
shovelware.
it's like, I don't know.
But yeah, great game.
Yeah.
Didn't finish it. Don't have a whole lot to say about it, but
I
charming.
would like to see Nintendo publish more like cute little indies like this. Like I think that's a thing that they did a pretty good job of this generation, and I hope we get 1 or 2 of these at launch. That'd be cool.
Yeah, no, the Switch thrived with like the smaller indie titles on the go, and Snipper Clips is a great example of that. But we'll see.
So then next up we got Xenoblade. This was one that like there was a lot of Xenoblade on Switch, and I'm always interested in how much they seem willing to invest in Xenoblade when it has never sold particularly well.
I'm just glad that they let the people get their trilogy, right? Now, to be fair, I have not completed all of the Xenoblade games, so take this with a grain of salt. But apparently 3 wraps up the story in an incredibly satisfying way. And like you just said, because it hasn't sold crazy well, I'm glad that Nintendo has given this game like a fair shot.
I mean, there's literally another. We got Chronicles X Definitive Edition coming out in like 2 days, so it's like they're clearly they're on the Xenoblade train. But I have heard what you said because I also played 3, I enjoyed it, but I didn't finish it. And I just kind of feel like, no disrespect to Xenoblade, but I feel like it would be a good time to maybe put that down and like start a new franchise, because like these games are so like beloved by the people that love them, and I feel like it's a little impenetrable because it's like there is a lore across the games, and it's like for you to want to jump on to a new one now, it's like there's all this stuff that you really want to know, and I think it would be great to see that team make a similar game in a similar style, but with as a clean slate, fresh jumping on point for people.
Yeah, so I with Xenoblade Chronicles X, I forget if it takes place like 1,000 years before the original game or 1,000 years after, but there was like a pretty significant time jump or prequel or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I haven't played that one yet. So if they did want to stick with the Xenoblade name, they could just do that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because
and like at this point, they have the name recognition can get them pretty far.
Xeno, there's already 2 other games in the Xeno saga, I think is the or no, Xeno is the name of the series, and there's Xenogears, Xenosaga,
None of those are related to Xenoblade.
No, they are.
Am I wrong?
You're definitely wrong.
Have I been gotcha'd? I've been wrong before, and this is one of those times. Okay, so with that in mind, right, then they should just do Xeno X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
And
I
just,
think
leave the Chronicles alone.
just like set up a new, whatever, Xeno whatever, and give people like, the ability to kind of like see what the hype's about. In the same way that like a lot of people played Fire Emblem for the first time with 3 houses, and I think Xenoblade
Banger.
3 being a 3 hurt it as like a new thing.
Yeah, which is crazy because Xenoblade 3 and the DLC is like the best reviewed thing in the entire franchise.
Yeah, and I think a lot more people would have played it if it wasn't connected to games that have been, like the original game came out in like 2005,
Yeah, no, fair enough. But I will say the
least in
story
the
of 3
West,
would not work if it weren't a sequel because it's pretty directly tied into the Xenoblade series, if I recall.
It's less that I mean that game should have been, but like if that game, the quality it was part of a new lore, right, or like a new chapter in the broader Xeno, lore or whatever. I think it probably would have been, in a similar way, like that Metroid Dread was the best-selling Metroid. Like I think it probably could have hit that same echelon, right?
Yeah.
So then next up, we got Bayonetta. We had Bayonetta 1 and 2 first. Obviously, Bayonetta 3 came later. We had that spin-off, like, origin story that came out, like, a year or so ago. Yeah, I don't know. Bayonetta is an interesting one, because Bayonetta 3, like, doesn't seem like it did particularly well.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of controversy with like the voice actor
acting
being changed,
yeah.
and then so instead of buying the game, you should donate to this charity, and it ended up being like an anti-abortion charity or something like that, like a pro-life thing or something
Tough.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
that was
also,
an interesting story.
yeah, it's like, we're going to get another Bayonetta game. I feel like that's inevitable. The issue is that I know the third one also had like a new director as well.
I think you're right, though. Like, I think the fact that we got that origin story, like, story greenlit and everything, it's like, I think we probably will see a Bayonetta 4. It's just like, I don't have any idea of what the timeline on that looks like when you consider that the 3 was announced at the Switch, like, reveal event and then only just came out, like, 2 years ago, so...
Yeah, the only downside is I know that the main director of all the Bayonetta games, like Arika Kamiya, I might have butchered his name. I'm so sorry. I know that he left the studio Platinum Games.
Okay.
And like
oh
the
yeah,
last
that
thing
just
that
happened
he,
like recently, right? Yeah.
yeah, the last thing that he worked on was that Bayonetta Origins spinoff. So I'm not sure if that would have an impact.
Maybe.
But I feel like they
maybe.
won't just leave money on the table because Bayonetta is incredibly beloved.
It is, but I think it's
say.
I think it is more niche than I even realized. And it like if he was like the driving creative force behind it, like maybe it will go away for a while. But I don't know. Because we know they're
Wherever
doing
he
Astral
goes, I
Chain
follow.
too. Like they have other stuff going on.
Yeah, and he was
I
the
think
supervisor
it's,
for Astral Chain.
I think it's very cool that Bayonetta got its moment on the Switch. Even if it wasn't like a, until the very end Resonant ride. Personally, not someone who plays those games, but I know it's a very, very passionate fan base, so it was cool to see it get some love.
Yeah, for sure. I just wonder if maybe it's run its course. But, we'll see. Obviously, everything gets old.
Or maybe
becomes
for the
new
time
again.
being. Like, to your point, it might be another one like Xenoblade that might just need a rest or some kind of soft little reboot pivot to some extent.
Pivot.
So then I wanted to throw this one out, which is a Nintendo Labo. Not that I think we'll get another Labo, but like, do you think we're past the like weird, wacky? Because like Ring Fit was really successful.
No, it's eternal, baby.
Right?
Yeah,
There's going to be another thing like
They
this.
will never stop. They will never sleep.
It's going to be Mario Paint too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Actually, not for nothing. With the rumor that the
With the mouse,
Joy-Con
I'm
could
telling
use
you.
as a mouse,
I know.
like,
It's not a crazy idea. It might be a thing.
Yeah.
We'll see. Okay, then Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
That's it. That's all we get on Labo.
Yeah, I don't
It
get
was the
anything
craziest product of our lifetime.
else. Yeah, but come on.
did
10
you
words?
did you buy one?
Of course, I bought one.
Okay, see, I didn't like.
Jack had the
I-
keyboard, I bet.
So I remember it was within like a month of its launch. You could get it for like 85% off.
Nice.
And that's when I picked mine.
That's a sign of
And
a
I
very
built-
successful
yeah,
product.
I built a piano with a friend over the course of an evening, and then I never again thought about Nintendo Labo.
That sounds about right.
And now we can move on.
Now we can move on.
So then Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. We also just got Donkey Kong Country Returns HD very recently. We have to get a new Donkey Kong game at some point, but I keep saying that and it keeps not happening. So
Yeah,
I
in
think it
theory.
will. I think the 3D Donkey Kong game is real. I talked about it enough. I don't know. We'll see.
Crazy that they developed a theme park faster than
A
the
game.
sequel to
It's a
that
new
game.
game.
Yeah, there's a movie that's going to come out, and, it's like, okay, surely the other shoe's going to drop at some point, right?
Yeah, I'm
So-
like trying to look this up. So yeah, like they took a break from the Donkey Kong Country games to do Metroid Prime because Nintendo was in trouble, and then they're just gonna go back to the Donkey Kong like sweatshop.
We'll see. I mean, there's that, like I said, there's that rumor that there's like a new internal Donkey Kong team, and that times up pretty well with the Metroid Prime stuff. So it's like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I cannot spin myself out on new Donkey Kong game anymore.
How cool would it be to go to work every day knowing you're on the new secret Donkey Kong team?
I mean, I
It's
like,
like seeing on your calendar, like new secret Donkey Kong team meeting, 10 a.m. Hush, hush.
like people don't even know. They're not
It's a
prepared
cool
for what
job
we got
title.
cooking.
Yeah.
So let's talk about all the sports games at once because we got Mario Tennis Aces, there was Mario Strikers, there was a new Mario Golf. They all like hit a very, very similar like middle of the road Metacritic response. Like they're all in the mid 70s, right? Like they all sold a few million units, but like I don't know. I feel like that. I feel like that formula needs a shakeup real bad. It's been a long time since any of them have been like actually
Exceptional.
good. Yeah. It's like they're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I guess they haven't been great in a while, so I can't say like it was a disappointing showing on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Everything on the Switch was fine. None of it was offensively bad. All of it did just enough. The same stuff it's been doing for the past, like, I don't know. You might have a more educated, I'll say like 12 years.
I think that's
I know,
right.
like, yeah, on the GameCube, we had some good stuff. And on the Game Boy Advance in particular, there was like a great Mario Tennis with like an RPG mode, which was
Yeah.
a lot of fun that I know a lot of people have very fond memories of. So yeah, a little bit disappointing that we didn't see any more ambitious attempts with it on the Switch, but also I can't complain about it. Like,
Yeah, I feel like
they
the
gave us
hearts
what they
haven't
said they were
been.
gonna.
Yeah, I feel it's like here you go. Damn, here's more Mario Tennis and golf and football.
It just
or
feels like
soccer.
it feels like it feels like something that they should be able to figure out, right? I think like turning in like a slightly above average Mario sports game should not be that big of an ask. And
Yeah,
I'd
but I
love
feel-
to
I
see
feel
them
like
get it
it's-
together a little bit.
I feel like it's financially feasible for them to not really care though.
Yeah,
If it, like, they don't need to sell gangbusters with it. They know very well this is going to sell X million if we just do this, this, and this and put it out. So I think it's more of like it sounds lifeless, but it's like more of a business asset for them than one of the playgrounds where they want to really invest their creativity.
I think you're right, but I find that so confusing when you think about the next game I'm going to bring up. I'm jumping around a little bit here, but Nintendo Switch Sports, right, which was another game like very middling critical reception, is 72, right, like lower, quite a bit lower than most of the other Mario sports titles, but it sold 15 million copies. And like I feel like if you do those games well, I think they could sell more in the echelon of something like a Mario Kart, right? Like if they were actually good and fun, but them being very middle of the road.
I think they
just
also
don't know.
have an uphill battle though of it being so established as like a middle of the road. This is like a fun addition to your library. It's not a game to go run out and buy.
Yeah, that might be part of the
And
problem.
I feel like even if they did say like starting tomorrow we are all in on delivering incredible Mario sports games, it's still a tough sell because that's like such a preconceived notion nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to be completely frank, I haven't cared about a Mario sports game since the GameCube, and that's just my.
That was that's the last time that they were really good, right? And like that's the question I keep coming back to, right? Is like, is it a chicken or the egg thing, right? Like, are they middle of the road because they like, there's just not anywhere else to go, or are they middle of the road because they're middle of the road?
Listen,
as a fan, I'd like to see them do less of them and put a little more effort into.
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
As someone who understands their business, I get it.
Like Nintendo has like limitless creativity. If they wanted to blow us out of the park with the Mario sports game, they can, but they haven't because they don't care. They're putting their focus in other areas and having like their C team develop these will sell and make money at a minimal cost. And let's just call it what it is. At the end of the day, Nintendo's still a business, and this is easy, almost free money.
Yeah, it just feels like
it's not going to offend anyone. It's never going to undersell. It's never going to oversell. It's just some bread and butter filler to patch the life cycle of the console.
Yeah, and like fill the gaps in the release schedule, right? With something that, to your point, that'll sell well enough. So then Captain Toad is another one, right? You're a big Captain Toad boy.
I'm a big Captain Toad boy, yeah.
What would you want to see on Switch 2?
Just a sequel. I owned Captain Toad on the Wii U, and I thought it was like, if I had to pick 3 games of like why the Wii U was such a strange little delightful console, Captain Toad is like not 3. It's in the top 3 and it's not 3. I love that game. It's really small in scale. I think there's nowhere to go but up with it. It's so like conceptually sound, and all it needs is more
just
production
more puzzles,
value and just more money thrown at it.
I'm with you.
I think they could do really awesome stuff with it.
I enjoyed it a lot too.
It sold 2 million, like 2.3. I didn't think that game sold that well, but
that's like
I'm
totally
wrong.
good for a game that was a re-release of a Wii U game, no less, right?
Yeah, no, actually,
and I think keep the same like business strategy for it. Keep it. What was it? $40 for the Switch?
Yeah, it's like a slight budget title.
Yeah, keep it that kind of one tier below a AAA game. Yeah, I love the formula. I would love to see more of Captain Toad.
I'm with you.
Or make it smaller. Do like a $30, $20 game.
Yeah, and just make more of them.
I think they have something fun there. I'd like to see them continue.
Yeah, I agree. So then we got Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and then its sequel. These are really good. They're really good games, and I think that like nobody
suspiciously good
wants to think that they will be because like the Rabbids are annoying, but like they're really good, and I wish that they sold better. I can't imagine we'll get more. I know they were not particularly profitable. Yeah, they were not big winners for Ubisoft, and Ubisoft is already struggling. But the developer who was like the lead dev on them just left to start an indie studio, and like I could see them maybe partnering with him to make another game in this style that just doesn't use the Rabbids. But we'll see.
I'm surprised
hot
that
take.
they
I
didn't
love
go
those
on-
rabbits. Love those rabbits. Like you called them annoying. I love them.
Yeah, so I wasn't mad to find out that the game was good. I was much more mad to learn that I didn't hate the rabbits. Like I really wanted to.
Yeah, I mean they
at first glance, yeah, like you really assume that they're going to be the absolute worst little knockoff minions you've ever seen in your life, but
the minions knock them off
like
is the
quite a
weird
bit during
thing.
that game.
You know?
Wait, what? Didn't the rabbits come out before?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think the minions ripped them off.
I see.
So okay. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, my only point on the series was going to be I'm surprised that even though they didn't sell a lot like at launch and they quickly drop in price as a lot of Ubisoft games do, I'm surprised that they didn't go on to sell a high volume over time at a low
Yeah.
price, like at that $20 Ubisoft Greatest Hits.
Yeah, I
sticker
guess
price
the
that they do.
genre is just niche, and maybe that's it. But like, I don't know. I'm with you. Like, I thought they were really good, and I like tactical RPGs a lot. And
Yeah.
it's a bummer. I'd love to see that studio take another stab at it with just maybe all Mario characters and see if maybe that has more potential.
Yeah, it was great. It was not just like, oh, this is a cool, idea. It was really good.
Legitimately,
Put their thumb in it.
Yeah.
So then next up we got Super Mario Party, and of course we've had two other Mario parties on the console as well. We had the one that was like the greatest hits one that was I forget what it's called, but it's somewhere on this list here. I'll find it.
Jamboree, is that it?
Jamboree's the new
Yeah.
one that just came out, and that's actually the new one, and that one's doing really well. And is like on track. It's like selling at a very, very fast pace, like compared to the other games. Superstars was the greatest hits one. I feel like this generation was where Mario Party kind of got back on track. Like, I think it had been in a real dismal place for a while, and like Super Mario Party was like okay. It was like I thought mid, but I think the two that came after it were really solid.
Yeah, it's only improved on the Switch. Super Mario Party was kind of the middle finger one. Like, it was just really, the premise was fine. It went back to old school Mario Party, simple board, go around, collect the star. There was just like no content in it for a
The
$60
economy was
game.
so bad too. Like the
And
stars only mean 10
I remember
coins
like
was
playing
nuts.
it the first week and being like, oh, they're gonna do a games as a service, kind of like a Splatoon model, and drip feed maps and stuff. Not a single update.
Insane choice.
The lifetime of that game. But they did make amends. I haven't played the other two because I just got so burned from Super Mario Party, but I know that those are very well received. And
Yeah, I heard that Jamboree is the best Mario Party game in like a decade. So
Probably
if you're
longer.
probably longer, not for nothing, true. So I think it goes without saying we're going to get another Mario Party game. I feel like it is inevitable. Jamboree's not even a full year old yet, so it might take them a year or two. But at the same time, these Mario Party games don't necessarily have like the longest turnaround. Like we got 3 Mario Party games on the Switch alone over these last 7 years. So I think we'll get it sooner rather than later. Just maybe not like maybe year 2.
Maybe yeah. Like I think it's maybe right past like launch window. First 2. Like I could see it maybe 3 years or something like that. Considering, like you said, like Jamboree just came out, but I don't know.
Yeah,
3 years.
this will be my spicy take of the episode. I think. In addition to Splatoon, if Nintendo wanted to play around with like a live service, format, I think Mario Party could be a very interesting choice.
I agree.
To play
I think that would be a smart way to do it, and like you said, do like map packs and stuff, and just have me buy content for it.
Yep.
So next we got Pokemon, and I do want to split this because I think there's like the 3 like new franchises that they did. There was like the Let's Go stuff, the mainline stuff, and then the Legend stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Starting with Let's Go, it's really weird to me that we never got another one of these because they seem extremely low lift to make, and like it sold really well, 15 million. Like that's really solid for a remake, for the 3rd remake of a game that you've sold multiple times over, right? It's like, why not make a Let's Go Johto and on, right? Seems weird.
It is weird. A lot of people didn't like Let's Go. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was just like a real casual, like you can play with one hand Pokemon game. A lot of people didn't like that you didn't battle the Pokemon in the wild. But like you just got to look at it as a spinoff.
Yeah.
I think people got a little like angsty.
Yeah.
Because that was like the first Pokemon game on the Switch, I want to say.
Yeah, a little like
it was
premature worry that that's where the series was headed.
Yeah, like people wanted Sword and Shield, and we gave them Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
Right.
So like there was some. I remember there just being like a lot of animosity towards those games when it came out.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe that's why. They took a
Yeah,
step
but it's
back.
like it's so weird to me because it's like I don't know, like Metacritic is the same with it and Sword and Shield, and obviously Sword and Shield sold a lot better, but it also I'm sure took a lot more effort to make. You know, I don't know. It's like you're probably right that it's just like that was an experiment and it went fine, and we don't need to do it again with a game that might not sell as well as Gen 1, but yeah, just it's weird. It's more weird to me than anything else. I don't really need another Let's Go game, but it feels like money on the table to some level, on some level.
Let me put it this way. I would much rather get another Let's Go game than whatever the heck they did with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Yeah, those were
Like,
not
those
ideal.
those were not it. Like the only thing those games were good for were introducing more Pokemon to the Pokedex for competitive play. That's it. That's it.
I'm just sitting back and letting you guys cook, but I'm just like in real time amazed, remembering how many freaking Pokemon games are on the Switch.
So many. It's a
And
lot.
not even like,
Yeah.
not even like, tertiary like dungeon spin-off games, like actual Pokemon games.
Yep.
We have what, like 5?
Yeah, and then there was like also the spin-offs. Like there was like they did the remake of
So let's
Mystery
see.
Dungeon, right? Like which, that's another one. We could get a new Mystery Dungeon game. That'd be great, but
Let's see. So we got Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Sword and Shield, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Legends Arceus, Scarlet Violet, soon Legends ZA. We got Pokken.
Do you want to count the expansion for
yeah, it was
Sun and Moon?
there's expansions for both
Well, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out on the DS or the 3DS.
yeah, right. But both Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet had DLC.
Oh yeah, they had DLC. Which, for the record, I do greatly prefer DLC to them doing like
game
Ultra
every
Sword
year.
and Ultra Shield. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
To
enjoy
them
that.
taking
way
DLC
more.
and calling it a new game?
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, 10
I think
times
most
better
people
method.
agree there.
Yeah, so I think with Legends, like that's the most interesting game for me. Like it was the best critically received game, but it didn't sell as well as I think they probably would have liked. It sold like almost 15 million, which is still very good, but like that's less than, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And granted, like this is, this might be a slightly higher number now. It might have caught up or eclipsed those, but I think that game's like tail got hurt by the fact that Scarlet and Violet were so close to it, and
Yeah,
even though
for
they were
sure.
much worse games. So yeah, I think obviously we know what's next for Pokemon. It's ZA, and then it's the next remake and the next gen, right? We know what this is. Hopefully, we finally get to the longer dev cycles, equaling a better game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tough to say
Yeah,
at this
but-
point.
But like I don't know. I'm curious about Legends CA. It seems like they took some good lessons from Legends Arceus and then just jammed it in a city. We'll see.
I don't know.
I have to
like
wait.
I am cautiously optimistic. The changes to the battle stuff is I'm not sure about, but we'll see. We'll see. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, right? We talked about this one quite a bit. In terms of like it's the fourth best selling game on the console. I think it's such a uphill battle to me to figure out like what a sequel to this game looks like, especially without Sakurai at the helm. I kind of feel like this game is gonna do the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe thing and like get a re-release and sell for the rest of this console while they figure out what to do.
Yeah. I guess the question is, what is even a re-release though? Because with Mario Kart 8, you had different hardware.
Right.
Like you had hardware that nobody owned and new hardware that wasn't backwards compatible with that old one anyway. So like there was a case for
Yeah.
porting it and for Mario Kart 8 to continue to exist as the new Mario Kart. I don't know how you do that. with Smash
Unless
Bros.
you like add stages and maybe you do more characters for DLC or something, but I don't know, right? It's a tough question. I think Smash is in an interesting spot now. It's like I don't know where it goes from here.
Yeah, it's sort of like, what is it? Everybody's here. You can't do that twice because of like licensing reasons, right?
Licensing alone,
like
yeah.
licensing
Among-
that game must have been
among
a
other things.
nightmare. And Sakurai even said it was a miracle that it even happened to begin with.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like
So-
if you did get all of them back, so it's like, well, you're gonna add like what 30 more characters? Like we're gonna have 150 now. It's like at some point you gotta say enough's
hell
enough.
yeah.
You know?
No, more is more with Smash. Let's go. Like, give me Smash Bros. Ultimate. The way they get around the licensing, because it's technically just like a deluxe version of the old game. How they get around with the licensing for the DLC. If you bought the DLC for the original Smash Ultimate, it's going to be compatible with Smash Ultimate Deluxe, right? So that way, if they had like special licensing things with that, they can kind of get around it and not have to include it with it. And then they just do like 20 new characters and an improved single player.
Yeah, I don't know.
Done.
There's just like, who directs that though? If it's not Sakurai, right? Like it's like obviously Namco Band, like that team exists, so like they could, but yeah, I don't know.
But-
It's a big question mark for me. I think that's the franchise I'm the least like clear on what possibly happens.
Going
next.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I wish I had like some cool prediction I can make, but I don't know.
No, I
No.
honestly I don't know that they know.
Yeah,
We'll see.
they're working on it.
So then we got Yoshi's Crafted World, right? Like the 2D Yoshi titles. I imagine we'll get another one of these, but you know,
Yeah, Yoshi's Woolly World was great. Again for the Wii U.
Right.
I'm the source of Wii U lore and history, I guess, on the show. Yeah, Woolly World was great. The sequel, very, very bad, in my opinion. Just if you played Kirby's Epic Yarn, it kind of suffered from the same issues. It was like impossible to lose.
yeah.
And the collectibles were just not handled in the charming, exciting way that they were in the previous title. It was just kind of a thrown together Yoshi game that exists.
I
That's
think
about
that's
all I have to say about it.
I think that's like where Yoshi's been for a minute, where it's like I feel like Yoshi's Island is very good, and pretty much every other Yoshi game feels like it kind of doesn't know what it wants to be. It's like I don't know. I feel like it's a series that doesn't really have much of an identity, and
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps getting like there's so many ideas and other properties that Nintendo could try. I don't know why that one keeps getting entries.
yeah,
It's
like
not,
if
it's
they're
not selling well,
if
right?
they're not
Like,
gonna do something that's more inspired, yeah. I mean, like Crafted World sold 3.35 million, which is like for what it cost, that's probably a pretty good return. So maybe it's the same thing as the Mario Sports titles, where like low lift.
I mean, artistically, that game was a huge undertaking.
Which
I guess both of them. They both kind of have different
oh yeah, I
art
see what you're
styles
saying.
and both very unique, like labor-intensive art styles.
Yeah, but it's still a 2D platformer. Like just the ceiling on, you know what I mean? Like,
everything around it, but
yeah,
yeah,
the
that's
cost
where the
on
money
something
was
like that is, I think,
invested.
just a lot less than what it takes to make like you know, a Tears of the Kingdom,
Metroid
for
Prime
example.
4.
Right, but it still sells for $60, right? So it sells quite a bit, you know. I don't know. I maybe that's just where they are with it, but I would love to see it get a similar moment that like I feel like Kirby finally got with Forgotten Lands, where it was like, oh, finally some good food, right? Like something
Probably some good food.
new and fresh that really like felt like cool and meaningful, and not just like here's the next one with the next gimmick. And I think that's where it is right now. I think it needs that like shot in the arm for like what is a Yoshi game moving forward. Tell me about Super Mario Maker 2. I feel like that game was mismanaged. Like the first one was such a moment, even though the Wii U was like not a thing, and I feel like 2 felt like it kind of came and went. I would like to see them take another shot at it and like improve the online functionality so that it, you know, has a little bit more staying power. But
Not for
you
nothing.
just-
The biggest thing Nintendo can do to improve the Switch 2 is just to improve like its online features.
yeah,
And if
It's
they
true,
do
yeah.
that, like Mario Maker 3 with improved Nintendo online features, chat, more community things, etc., like that could be a game that could really show that off. But it's also Nintendo we're talking about, so who knows? I don't know. Like they
Yeah.
they aren't known for their online prowess. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, true.
No, it's a good point. I mean, a lot of the games that we've touched on this episode that we've had thoughts along the lines of, like, I wish they just went a little further with it, or I wish they like marketed a little better. A lot of these games would have been in a much better position if they were not so crippled by just the absolute bare bones functionality of Nintendo Switch, at least the early iterations of online.
Yeah, I think you're right. So then jumping along to another one of the franchises that I think had a real level up this generation was Fire Emblem Three Houses, right? Like Three Houses was the best-selling Fire Emblem game so far. Very, very well received critically, 89 on Metacritic. Yeah, I think Fire Emblem is, like on its way to kind of jumping to the next echelon maybe of title for them. And yeah, I'm just excited to see the next full length game, right? Because like we got Engage, which was a very, very fun game if you like the gameplay of Fire Emblem, and very much not the next game in the franchise.
I mean, it very much is the next game in the franchise. Let's not do that. It's just that I guess people enjoyed the story and the way they handled it way more in Three Houses. But Engaged is a full length beginning to end Fire Emblem sequel.
Yeah, but it
is.
Yeah, but it's not the next game in the franchise though. It's a like anniversary like like, you know what I mean? Like it like Three Houses is very much like pushing the like franchise forward, right? Like it introduced a ton of new mechanics and like it changed the way that battle worked. And this is and I'm not like trying to denigrate the game. I really enjoyed it, but I think that it's like it is very much a game that you play as somebody that has history with Fire Emblem and wants to like see cameos from all your old favorite characters and stuff like that, not the next game after Three Houses.
I don't know. I kind of disagree with that. I do think it's the next game after Three Houses, and it just so happens to also be a celebration of what came before. Because you're describing it almost like it's a spinoff, and it's not.
I think it is more akin to a spinoff than the next game in the franchise.
I strongly disagree with that, but we can go back and forth for hours on that one. But I will say that there's a reason why Three Houses sold more. It is the better of the two games. If you're going to play one Fire Emblem game on the Switch, make sure it's Three Houses.
Definitely. I think Three Houses is one of the best games on the Switch, personally.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything unique to add to it other than I like Fire Emblem, period. Three Houses I thought was incredible. And got me very excited for the future of Fire Emblem. I just hope they continue with what Three Houses introduced and
agreed.
Sim side of Fire Emblem. I was surprised how well done it was. Very unexpected.
All right, next up we got Ring Fit Adventure. I don't know that we'll get a Ring Fit 2, but I imagine we'll get another like exercise game of some kind. But I honestly like it wouldn't be crazy to do a sequel. I mean, it sold really well.
It's built for one.
Yeah, the hardware is the same. Why not?
We Fit did, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And like
so
this game sold very well, like over 15 million units, which when you factor in that you have to get the game with that attachment accessory thing.
Yeah.
Honestly,
the ring
like
the most surprising, I think, Switch success story on this list.
Yeah. It's like
I would
like
agree.
who
it's
if
very interesting how like much staying power it had.
Yeah.
I will also say that during the pandemic, when a lot of things got shut down, people weren't going to the gym and whatnot. Like that's when I got the Ring Fit Adventure. I found one online. I was like, I'm not going to the gym, but I'm going to stay active inside my house and socially distance. So I do think it did get a little bump because of COVID. Similar to like Animal Crossing. Not that those games wouldn't have sold regardless.
Just a little bump for.
I mean, you think about it too, right? Like
bump.
Ring Fit did come out like 6 months before lockdown started, so that was like perfect timing for it. Yeah. Okay, Luigi's Mansion 3. We'll get a Luigi's Mansion 4. It'll come eventually.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Right? Like again, it sold well. Metacritic was good. People like it. Why wouldn't we get another one?
Return to form. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, it's a great title. So then we had Dr. Kawashima's brain training for Nintendo Switch, which is like that's like the brain age, like it's
just a funny segue from Luigi's Mansion.
very much so.
Straight into a human man's doctor name.
I don't know. These are interesting because like they were obviously such a big thing on the DS, and like it just seems like they've never been able to recapture that market because I feel like what it is it's a lot less unique in 2025, and yeah,
it needs a stylus. I understand why they thought like maybe on the Switch this will kind of feel native again, but something about that stylus just really made that formula click.
Yeah, and we got a big Brain Academy as well. Like neither of them, they both sold fine. They both were reviewed fine. I think I could see that being enough to be like, let's move on from this. Like maybe this is an idea that just doesn't have legs anymore.
Yeah, the last game came out in, 4 years ago, roughly, or 3, because it came out in December of 2021. And then before that, the last game was in 2007.
Yeah.
Before this big brain.
To bring it back and have such a little return is like, I can't imagine that they're eager to do another one.
Yeah, so rest in peace. You were great on my DS, but it is what it is.
The best Sudoku software. Period.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
On the market.
Definitely helped popularize that in the States, like quite a bit too.
Yeah. For
sure. Then we got, of course, Animal Crossing: New Horizons. We've been talking around this one a lot. I mean, I think this is, like you said earlier, Ken, this is a if, not a when thing. Obviously, Animal Crossing is more popular than it's ever been. I think the likelihood that the next one hits quite as hard is debatable, just considering how much of a bump that it got. But I think you also have to consider the fact that so many people tried it for the first time and got hooked on it and will go and show up for another one. So yeah, it might not be, as Titanic a success, but I have to imagine that the next one is something that they're very eager to, see get across the bow.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I think it's not going to be nearly as much of a global, what the hell? I would say Animal Crossing everywhere in my life, everywhere I turn. I do think it's going to be a bigger reception than I'm currently picturing it. I do think it's going to have another big moment, bigger than we're expecting.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Animal Crossing is going anywhere.
Bought a Switch for Animal Crossing and have not played another video game since then, and are going to emerge and be in line for whenever that new Animal Crossing is.
Yeah, and I think whenever that new Animal Crossing comes out, it'll be midway through the Switch 2's lifespan, if I were to guess.
Be a bit, yeah.
I think that's probably right. Yeah. Because you got to think they only stopped development on it a couple years ago, right? And then that team is also shared with the Splatoon teams. That's a whole problem.
Development maybe until a couple years ago, but it felt like support for that game just dropped off in a major way and in such a financially foolish way. It seemed like they decided we have a year of content for Animal Crossing, and then once that's over, it's over. And making $5 bajillion didn't make them think hey, maybe we should revisit this plan and find out a way to extend this historically popular thing that we have established out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's
after that first year, it was done.
That's
crazy to me.
The number one thing I would want to see them do better for the next one is to just have either a longer tail in mind or a greater amount of content to gradually unfold. Also, this stuff we talked about last time with the villager stuff, where I would like to see fewer villagers with more distinct personalities for sure.
Yeah. Aside from that, I think just more for me.
Yeah.
I know you have feelings about the crafting and whether or not that should stick around as kind of a permanent fixture.
I like the crafting.
I don't dislike it. I think it's the focus on it that I don't like.
Okay. I think it's similar to Breath of the Wild. I think it's too introduced to take it away.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
no, I
I
agree.
guess I would agree. Like, I hope it's made more of a, this is one of the tools in your pocket rather than like the central plot point, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that like the more that the game has had a central conceit of like you're the mayor, like you're building the island, like it's like it feels like that's where we've gotten away from some of the like social sim stuff, and it's like that should be the core of the game, I think. But not that I think you should make your town look however you want. That's great, but that doesn't need to be like the thing that the game is totally centered around. I think that should be like the stuff that you do at high level, right? Like once you've invested and you've gotten through a lot of the actual content,
Yeah. For a game about being the mayor, I'll agree. I felt a little distant from the actual characters and like
From your people.
Yeah, they feel like set dressings in the town that I am designing rather than like people that live there, and I think that's like what was special about Animal Crossing in years past.
a little bit. Yeah. I mean, this one was cool because it was the first time the connection was happening outside of the game.
Yeah,
That
and
was
the
very
online stuff was
interesting.
great. I really enjoyed the online play.
Surprisingly
But
solid.
unless
and well
that's
done.
where they're going to invest in like delivering us an evolution of Animal Crossing in a real life social way, then I agree. The in-game relationships should be a focus.
Yeah, I think
'Cause
they
they
should
were
be more meaningful.
Admittedly, yeah, a bit of an afterthought in New Horizons.
Agreed. So then Paper Mario, the new one we got this time around was Origami King, which was pretty mid. And then, of course, we got the Thousand Year Door remake, which was, very well received. Obviously, like I think the most critically successful game in the franchise so far. In terms of what's next, it's like, I mean, I hope a good one.
I hope it's good. Yeah. And I feel like Paper Mario is one of those things where if another Paper Mario game came out, it would not surprise me. But also, if it went away for like the entirety of the Switch 2's lifespan, I might be like, oh yeah, I remember that franchise. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can kind of take it or leave it. But granted, Thousand Year Door does slap.
I think it's one of those things where like the good Paper Marios are really excellent, but there's more mid ones than there are great ones at this point. So it's like, yeah, I'm with you. Like if you're gonna turn in more of whatever, then it's like forget
More
it.
mid.
But like
I mean, by the great ones, we mean
1 and 2.
Thousand Year Door, because there hasn't been. Yeah,
I like the first one. I think the first one is a good game.
I love the first one. I like it more than Thousand Year Door personally, as someone who played them both growing up. But yeah, there's not been even a good Paper Mario since then.
So
Playable
it's like
one, sure. That's about as generous as I can get.
it does like beg the question of like, do we need more then if they have not been able to figure out a way to do it well?
Yeah,
right?
it's to me, it's like Yoshi syndrome. I'm just kind of like, why are you doing this multiple times per generation when it just feels very clear that you don't have much like interest in it?
It feels even more glaring when you consider that there were multiple other Mario RPGs this generation, like the Super Mario RPG remake. It's like, yeah, like why would I want to play a mid Paper Mario? And there are like 3 other good Mario RPGs on this thing,
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Mario and Luigi Brothership last year, which I thought was worth bringing up because that was one that like, was brought back right from the grave. And I mean, it did okay.
And straight back it went.
I'm sorry.
I said, and straight back it went.
Yeah, like it did okay, but I don't know that it was enough to inspire wanting a sequel. It's like it got a 77 on Metacritic. It's sitting at roughly like just under 2 million units, which is fine, but I don't know. It's like maybe you give it another shot to see if you can build on what was established there, but yeah, it's not promising, which is a bummer because these games, again, the good ones are really good.
Yeah, no, Superstar Saga to this day is my jam. I played that all the time on my
Bowser's
Game Boy
Story,
Advance.
right? Like, yeah, there's some really good Mario and Luigi games.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
I mean, I didn't grow up with them, but yeah, I know that the attachment is so strong for a ton of people, but the like core of that team is long gone, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like trying to recreate something without really understanding the essence of it.
Yeah, and I guess that's the
optimistic.
question, right? Is like, does this team deserve another at bat to see if they can get it together? Because like what they turned in was like solid, right? Like, or is it like you cut your losses and stop trying to make this a thing.
I mean,
If we can get like 12 Paper Marios that aren't good, I'd say give them another shot.
I agree.
you know what? Fair.
I'd say
fair.
take another stab at it for sure, but
I feel like that's one of the like the Mario and Luigi RPGs is one of those franchises that might go away for a while, but it will always eventually find its way back to us. Like like you said, people grew up with this. This is the 6th game in the franchise, and once you start hitting 6+ games of just Mario and Luigi, then it would be foolish to assume it's not coming back. The question would be when, and I don't think it's going to be for a hot minute.
unless that team is directly going to make a sequel, right? Like unless they're like,
Yeah.
all right, run it back, let's try again, right? Like, but otherwise, I think you're right. So then we got Pikmin 3 Deluxe was the first Pikmin game. Then we obviously got Pikmin 4 in 2023, and Pikmin 1 and 2 got their ports right around that same time. Pikmin 4 was the most successful game in the franchise so far. Sold just under 4 million units, which is pretty solid for Pikmin. And at 87 on Metacritic, I think the idea that they would potentially like greenlight another sequel that doesn't have, Miyamoto helming it, right? Because he's off doing other stuff now, could come out much quicker and, probably capitalize on that success. I hope that's what happens. I really liked 4 a lot. I'm a big Pikmin guy, and I thought 4 was a really, it modernized a lot of things about the franchise in a way that I think is good and makes it a little bit more accessible without making it easy. And I think I think it's never been more accessible than it is right now. So I'd like to see them, keep going, keep pushing.
And I just feel like, Pikmin's not going away anytime soon, but I also don't feel like we're going to get a sequel anytime soon.
I think you're probably right. It's probably like a mid-gen, late-gen Switch 2 game.
Late gen, if that.
Yeah.
If the Switch 2 lifespan at all. Like, that's how long I think this is going to take. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
I hope so too. Okay, so then WarioWare, the most recent one. Was this the most recent one? We had Get It Together, and then I think there was one other one, right? Oh yeah, Move It are the two that have come out on Switch. Neither did particularly great. Like they're both again pretty middle of the road, and I feel like this is another one of those franchises that it feels like they just kind of keep doing more of the same, and people don't seem to have the same taste for it that they used to.
I will disagree with. I'm a massive WarioWare fan.
Good.
I'm one
Set
of
me
like
straight.
12 people who identify as a huge WarioWare fan. So Get It Together. That's the name, right?
That's the 2021 one, yeah.
Yeah, so that one was really cool. That was designed with full co-op in mind, which is a series first.
That's cool.
And you can just kind of play through the campaign as like one of 12 playable characters that kind of each have their own little quirky movements and abilities that switch up the way you approach the micro games. And you could fully play it with another person, which was cool and a very unique take on WarioWare, I think, which has been the same formula since Game Boy Advance when it was introduced. It was, in addition to the Wii, the motion controls, obviously, right, were a big innovation for the series. I think it was the first time since then that I felt like, oh, this is a WarioWare that's doing something different. I know it didn't sell well. It didn't have a ton of content once you were done with the campaign. That was kind of it. But I just wanted to show some love to WarioWare Get It Together.
So next we've got Metroid Dread. This was another like record setter for a franchise. This was the best-selling Metroid game so far. It had a Metacritic of 88. Pretty big W, I would say. Metroid is one of those like it is an iconic franchise. Its iconography is incredibly well recognized, but it has never been a big seller at all. And this was the first, I think, sign of them like kind of taking back the crown a little bit after like, the indie scene really exploding the Metroidvania genre. It was cool to see Nintendo like really earnestly put the effort towards a Metroid 4, and Yeah, it's Slade. It was a great game.
Yeah. No, just a like badass demonic statement of a game.
And this was
Loved
the first
Metroid
Metroid
Dread.
I ever like finished. It was the first one I ever really got
Really?
into. Yeah,
I would say it's the first. This is gonna piss a lot of people off, but it's the first Metroid that I loved. Like I can fully tell you, I loved start to finish. I've played a couple 2D Metroids. I've played Super Metroid. I've played Metroid Fusion for the
Mhm.
GBA.
Did you ever
I
play
like that.
Zero Mission?
I like that a lot. Didn't play Zero Mission. Played also Metroid Prime 1. Is the only Metroid Prime I've played. So I'm not like the most well-versed Metroid fan.
but Dread
but-
slaps.
Dread slaps.
Dread was just approachable and intense and like aggressive in a way that
Aggressive.
it just like grabs you by the throat and you're just in it
Yeah,
for the whole ride.
and like what an
it was
incredible,
so fantastic.
what an incredible game to launch the OLED screen with. Like that was like so
That's
so
you were like one of those early adopters, right?
Yeah, I got it.
remember
I
you were-
wasn't even planning on picking it up, and then was like, "Fuck it," and like just day one grabbed it and was like so pleased because of how nice
Yeah.
Dread looked on it.
Absolutely love that game.
Yeah, it was my game of the year. The year it came out, I thought that game was incredible.
Yeah,
So
well
I mean,
deserving.
like, I think for Metroid 5, all I want to see is just get Mercury's team back to make another one. That's what they should do. Whatever that looks like, that's what they should do. And then obviously, we had the Prime remaster. We know Prime 4 is coming. That's going to be one of the last games on Switch. I'm very excited to see how that game performs. I think if it's good, it has a chance to, blow out Metroid to an even bigger audience because obviously like a 3D shooter is less niche than a 2D Metroidvania. Very exciting. Very exciting to see what it could mean for Metroid. So then I think this is our last big heavy hitter, which is Kirby. I think I meant to bring up Star Allies earlier and then didn't, but that's fine because Star Allies was mid. Kirby and the Forgotten Land was great. That was the first good Kirby game in a really long time. Sold very well, 7.5 million units, Metacritic of 85. I think I would love to see another game in this style. It was like a little bit like 2.5D approach, and it was really creative, and the post-game levels were really fun and challenging. It had a lot of content to offer.
Yeah. And like I just like dig like the art style. Like what was it? Is that the game with the Kirby car?
Yes.
Too?
That was a fun gimmick, too.
And like refrigerator, all the a lot of wacky ideas with the transformations.
I feel like they got a little bit of inspiration from Mario Odyssey. Like you toss the hat on the T-Rex, you
Absolutely.
just kind of go like a little wacky with it. And there's nothing wrong with like taking inspirations from the goats who come before you. So it's inevitable that Kirby is going to go back. The question or come back. The question is, where does it go from here? I don't think they would just build on what they did with the Forgotten Land. I think they would try to do something different, and or maybe they gave Sakurai his baby back. Maybe the game he's been working on these last few years has been like a really creative take on Kirby.
That would
Who
be cool.
knows? Like that would be super rad if he needed a break from Smash and he did like a Kirby game because you just know he has ideas
I
in
don't know.
there.
I don't know if I'd be behind that. I think I might be a bit disappointed. I loved Kirby, but I think Kirby is for a younger generation. So as a 30-year-old fan, I hope
I want
that's
something
not
else.
the secret project.
I would like to see him work on a new IP, personally.
Yeah,
too.
I think so.
I think he deserves a chance to do something else.
Or
Like another
a
Kid
radically-
Icarus.
Yeah, radically rethinking of an existing IP,
Sure.
if not something brand new.
So I got a couple quick ones I want to run through. There was a few like old school franchises that were like smaller things that it's like, oh, Nintendo published that like came back this generation that is very interesting that they did. I think a lot of it had to do with the like they knew that they were going to extend the Switch's life cycle a little bit longer, so they needed some gaps to fill. But we had another Code Recollection, which was a re-release of like I think that was a DS franchise originally. It might have been 3DS, but it's like it was
not even a franchise. It was a singular game, and the fact that it got a remake at all is kind of a miracle.
yeah, and it's like it's a weird game for them to have ever put out, and yeah, it's an interesting one. But that came back. We also saw Endless Ocean got a third game in its series. Emio, the Smiling Man, was the Famicom Detective Club, which came back, which is insane. All of those were weird, wacky little games that like none of them did particularly well, but was cool to see. I would be down to see them like take more swings on stuff like this, where it's like cheaper, smaller games with smaller dev cycles and smaller teams even, right? Like Emio was made by one person.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which is cool. It's cool that they even did something like that. Whether or not it was a success, hopefully it's like not the last time that they're interested in doing something like that.
Yeah, it's similar to like, movies and blockbusters these days. They spend like $100 million or $300 million on a movie and has to make $1 billion to break even. Or you can take that budget and make like 10 smaller movies, or in this case,
Right.
games. And if even one of them pops off, then it pays for all of them.
Right.
I am all about these, mid-range as far as like budget goes, games coming out with just like a small but passionate crew.
So then the last two to touch on here are games that came out last year. We had the remake of Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which is another like just, again, like weird, small handheld series that I didn't expect would ever come back or get a re-release, and it did. It doesn't seem like it necessarily did well enough to inspire more, but it's also like, why would you even do it to not like try? I don't know. Unless it's just a stopgap, it feels like maybe
I think that's what it is.
You're trying to like gauge interest for something new, but I don't know.
I think it makes perfect sense. Like if a Nintendo executive called me or you or any of us, I was like, hey, like the Switch is going to survive a year longer than we thought it was. We've thought of everything.
What
we've ported everything we can possibly port. What are we forgetting? The answer would be Mario and Donkey Kong.
I don't know. Mario versus Donkey Kong?
Like it is the niche poll of, I guess we haven't done this yet, so this will bridge the gap.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Unless you have something more niche than that, I don't know what else could possibly be left.
Well, I don't think there's not left. I mean, like, I think if you had asked me like 4 years ago, I would have probably listed like the last 10 games we talked about. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like I kind of feel like that is what they were doing. Where it's like, we're gonna scrape the bottom of this barrel, man.
And instead of porting Galaxy 2, they just they just hit us with Mario versus Donkey Kong.
No, that's coming up for $70 in your near future, Ken. Don't worry.
It'll come. It'll happen. It has to.
Not for nothing, an All-Star Collection 2 would slap with Galaxy 2 in it. But
I'm sure they'll be happy to sell you one.
Yep.
And then take it away, and so you can't download it or buy it ever again.
That's right. That's how you make 10 million copies sold in 2 months.
It's just basic business sense, Ken.
So then the last I mean, I guess the question is if it's going to be a franchise, right? Is we got Princess Peach Showtime. That was another one of the kind of like I would say like the mid-size, mid-budget, AA style titles that have been out, kind of filling the gap in this last year of Nintendo Switch. And it didn't particularly set the world on fire, but like I would not be even remotely surprised if they were like, that doesn't matter. Like we need to have a Peach franchise, and the move is to make another one and to iterate and make it better, not be like, I guess there isn't a market for a Peach game. That's my thought anyway. Yeah,
I mean, it sold over 1 million copies in 10 days, right? So I wouldn't call it a failure. I guess it really depends on the budget of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the most recent number I could get was 1.30 million, which like I'm sure it's higher than that now, but the fact that they haven't talked about it means it's probably not a lot higher. So like, I like if it was a mid-budget title and it hit like in the neighborhood of 1.5, like a little under 2 million, like I could see them running it back and giving that another at bat, just because it was the first one, and like I think it was finding
since
its
2005.
Identity.
It's the first Peach game that she was the protagonist.
That was the DS one, right?
Yeah, Super Princess Peach. So like, I hope it doesn't take 19 years for Peach to get another solo outing. I didn't realize it was that long. That's kind of nutty. But I wouldn't expect it around the corner. If anything, that'd be another mid to late Switch 2 lifespan type
Yeah,
thing.
I don't think it would be imminent, but like again, just like I think with like how much they're like centering her as a character in like the films and stuff like that. She was a playable character in Wonder. It's like, yeah, it definitely seems like that's an untapped market, I guess.
Potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In general, like Peach aside, I don't want to see them throw away any idea after one generally like agreed upon success. It was fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun premise. So I hope to see them continue with it.
Yeah, it seems like the worst thing you could say about it is that it's underbaked, and it's like that's exactly why you should make a sequel.
Yeah, that's why you make sequels. Exactly.
So I think that brings us up to date here. So I think this was a fun exercise. Like I think of the Nintendo Switch's library as being exceptional, but like I was surprised at how many games on this list I had like not thought about in a long time, and you know are really pretty high quality, right? Like I think the worst game on this list is not like terrible.
Well, the worst game on this list is Cardboard.
That's true.
Quite literally. The Switch is the definition of toss everything at it in the kitchen sink. Like there's a little bit of everything for everyone except for certain third-party games that just couldn't perform on the Switch.
So much
But
of
in
it
terms
worked too.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
like I think the Switch is going to go down in history as one of the most diverse and complete gaming catalogs of all time.
I think
and
complete's the word. Like there is just something for everyone. I can't think of any like little pockets of nerds that were not catered to on the Switch.
I mean, unless you're into like competitive first-person shooters exclusively,
Fair enough.
like like that's it. The Switch is not where you want to play Call of Duty,
Yeah,
but
that's on
literally anything else. RPGs, platformers, visual novels, music games,
Yeah,
like
and
this got it all.
I think they did a really good job of like fixing a problem that they had created in the Wii era, right? Where it's like, they courted the core audience again and like really put out a lot of super high quality software that was exceptional without caveat. And I think that was the thing that it had been a while since, not that there weren't great games on Wii U or the Wii, but like there was a lot of slop. There was caveats for why you didn't want to use the hardware, or there was shovelware that made you feel like it wasn't, it's like it was a muddled message. And I think the Switch was such a like strong step for them to like kind of have their cake and eat it too, because it's not like those casual things were not here, right? Like some of them were, and they sold really well. I think they did a really good job of serving all of the different segments of the audience.
Yeah, agreed. Looking forward to the sequel, boys.
Looking forward to the sequel. All right, folks,
Yo.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Nintendo Noise, with a very special thank you to our Patreon producers for the month of March. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Sobi, Project Julian, Susan still likes cats and also boobies, that one kid Nick, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You all the reals to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to go check out those shows, the Flip Screen Games podcast and the Steam Deck podcast, if you want to get involved in the community, or if you want to let us know what you thought about this week's show, you can do all that and much more by heading over to flipscreen.games. That's our website. Head over there, click on some stuff. However you choose to get involved, it helps us out quite a bit. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to give this episode a like, share it with a friend, and click that notification bell so you never miss an episode. If you're an audio listener, please take a second to leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps the show get circulated. For the crew, I've been Pete, he's been Ken, he's been Jack. We'll see you next week.